Now, the Omoda C9, when it launches, will be the flagship for the Jaecoo brand for the time being. We've seen this car at a static preview. We've also driven it around Bandar Utama, and now Jaecoo wants us to take this car out on a little course to figure out this car's dynamics. My name is AIMAN ABDULLAH. This is Malaysian Motoring, and this is our dynamic drive preview of the new Omoda C9. Okay, so today we've got a dynamic drive of the Omoda C9. This is the new D-segment SUV being offered by Jaecoo. It will sit as the flagship in the Jaecoo lineup for the time being, before the Jaecoo J8 arrives. And today's demonstration is largely to do with dynamics. So we've driven this car out on the open road, so we understand how comfortable it is, how refined it is to some extent. And now we're here to figure out how dynamically capable the car is. And so we've put the car into sport mode in order to set up the continually variable dampers, or CDC dampers, in its most aggressive setting to see how this manages the car's weight and body control. So we are on a test track now. We'll do the slalom? Okay. So going at this at a speed of about 20 to 30 kilometers an hour, the car maintains body movement quite well, but there is quite a bit of steering input required. This is a relatively slow rack. And the Michelin E-Primacy tires are doing their level best to try and keep everything under control. This is not a small car by any measure. Now, this is using, again, the variable dampers. And so as we go over these bumps at about 30 kilometers an hour in sport mode, it does not feel particularly uncomfortable. Again, this is the harshest setting currently available, and yet still it seems reasonably comfortable. So we've got two runs at this. We're now doing a figure eight. And so on the second part of this run, we will do that at in normal mode to see what the real differences are. But so far, these dampers are doing a pretty decent job at, again, managing the body and the weight of this car. So far, quite impressive. And now we've got a turning radius test. So this has nothing to do with dynamics. This is entirely to do with the technology available in this car, because like other Chery vehicles, this car is available with something called a 540-degree camera system. That allows not only to see all the way around the car, but also underneath the car should you take on particularly difficult conditions. But in any case, if we're going slow enough, with enough steering input, it comes on automatically in the center screen in order to ensure that you don't hit any obstacles around you. Now, this is the acceleration test. The Omoda C9 is powered by a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, which produces a whisker under 290 Newton meters of torque. And so this should mean that between here and the braking point, which is actually not that far away, we should be able to do decent clip. And then once we're there, we've been told to fully depress the brakes in order to feel what this car is like on the anchors. And so we are waiting for clearance from the instructor. And once that's given, we'll be able to fully throttle this car and see just how it does. Now, based on our experience driving this car out on the open road, we can say with a degree of certainty that there is more than enough poke in here for daily usage. But should you need to, it does pick up quite well, and the sound is not that bad either. And even though we're on a relatively challenging surface in the sense that there's a lot of gravel, and so we don't have optimum grip conditions, despite that, the car does brake quite convincingly and quite confidently. It also brakes in a straight line, which is always nice to see. Now, it is worth noting that the cars that we're driving today have actually already been on this track yesterday with a bunch of other motoring journalists. And so despite these tires having gone through a degree of wear, and the brakes too, no doubt, the cars are still performing quite well. So while we are lining up for a second go in normal mode to figure out how comfortable this car is in a more regular setting, let me talk a little bit more about the details of this car. So the Omoda C9 will be launched later this month, or at least that's what Jaecoo claims, with an estimated starting price of 185,000 ringgit for the two-wheel drive model, or 195,000 ringgit for this all-wheel drive vehicle. All cars will be powered by the same 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, which means your power outputs will be the same. Same goes for the acceleration data and so on. In terms of interior specifications, exterior specifications, these cars will be identical. It's broadly the same as what we've seen from the Jaecoo J7. And so we do expect this to be quite an interesting proposition on the market when it arrives, because there aren't that many D-segment SUVs out there. On top of that, we do admit that this car already seems to provide quite a good degree of value, or at least that's the proposition that's being put forward. And so far, so good. So once we are cleared to do the slalom course again. Now, we did this earlier in sport mode, we're now doing this in normal. The steering wheel is a little bit lighter now, but again, it's still the same slightly slower rack, although it's just significantly lighter actually. And you can tell that on this surface, the tires are not really enjoying it all that much. You can tell that the traction control is doing its best, but even then, body control still seems to be quite reasonable. Now, going over the same bumps at about 30 kilometers an hour, it's definitely a lot more comfortable in normal mode. But that said, sport is also not quite as sharp as I would like it to be. But ultimately, this is a D-segment SUV, which means comfort is the name of the game here, not necessarily dynamics. And I think that the confidence, or rather the dynamics on this car, are confidence-inspiring enough that you should be able to drive this car without too much concern. Now, doing this figure eight, I understand that it's mostly about body control, and again, it remains broadly similar to what we experienced in sport mode earlier. But I think what's slightly more pertinent to me is just how easy this car is to maneuver. Despite the size, going through the figure of eight, it still feels pretty reasonable, pretty manageable, even though this is a relatively large SUV. And so if you're moving up into something like this, or moving down into an Omoda C9 from, say, a larger luxury saloon, for example, this should still be a pretty decent overall proposition. So now we're going to do the acceleration test again, this time in normal mode, to see if there's any real difference in terms of throttle mapping, although I doubt that with full throttle application, but there we are. One thing that is worth noting is that this car runs an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and the way it shifts... Very good! And the way it shifts, thank you for there was a surprise cone that landed in my path just to throw me off a little bit, but I can say that so far, it seems to me that this car has all of the makings necessary of a convincing semi-luxury or pseudo-luxury SUV. And I think that, again, for the price that they're claiming the C9 will be made available at, which is well under 200,000 ringgit, I think that there will be customers who would be quite happy driving one of these day to day. Now, again, we are testing these cars, we're previewing this car on this track about a few weeks ahead of its official introduction, where we will get the full warranty package as well as the full retail pricing. And again, so far it seems quite convincing, but we still maintain some degree of reservation until we drive these cars out on the open road over an extended test drive in order to figure out just how capable these cars are. Now, this experience is being held at Plaza Arcadia in Desa Park City, happening from today all the way through the weekend, and it is open to the public. And so if you're interested to learn more about the Omoda C9, or in fact check out the Jaecoo J7 PHEV or anything else from the Jaecoo brand, you can check out this little experience over the weekend. In any case, so far what we've seen from the Omoda C9 is quite impressive, and we certainly look forward to seeing this car launch later this month, and of course for us to take it out on a full test. In any case, that concludes our dynamic preview drive of the new Omoda C9. Let us know what you think in the comment section below about the new Jaecoo flagship. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon to be notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and you can join our new WhatsApp channel. All the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and jangan bodoh.